But ये बताइए कि what about, there is another challenge there in the form of Netflix. बहुत
Yeah.
सारे लोग उधर भी जा रहे हैं ना. Have you thought
Yeah.
about it yourself?
I, I mean, I think that I think that Netflix is not. I think it's not actually a challenge for actors. Like, I think it's for actors, it's a boon. And I mean, I noticed this myself. Like, the show that I did with on Netflix is a show called Bhagvini Bhag, which was a like lovely
Yeah.
show, very well received. And I was stunned to see the kind of audience feedback it had, because it was a show that got watched all over. As I said, the Hindi, Urdu, Hindustani understanding audiences. So whether it was Bangladesh, whether it was Pakistan, whether it was UAE, whether it was India, it was being watched everywhere. So I was getting like feedback from audiences across. So I think that for actors, whether it's a Prime Video, Netflix, or all these streaming platforms, they I think that's a boon. um I think that the big Bollywood stars were, and like whether it's the Salman Khan and the Shah Rukh sir and those people, I think they perhaps are the people who had to negotiate what that did for the idea of stardom. Because suddenly Netflix started throwing up, and Prime Video started throwing up a newer kind of star, which is the OTT star. So,
Right.
so I think that that challenge is a challenge for the typical only Bollywood actors. But I think that they've also, like, I think that the thing with technology is, the best thing to do it is, there's no point fighting it. It's best to adapt to it and, like, ride the wave. And I think that that's what all
Right.
Bollywood actors are doing now. So if you see, all big actors are now themselves doing shows on streaming platforms, either starring in them or producing them. So
Right.
I think they've
Right.
figured out how to negotiate it. And I think that the the big I think that because of the timing of COVID, I think the
Hmm.
big sort of, I would say, damage. I mean, damage is a strong word, but I think the biggest challenge that Netflix and Prime Video and these streaming platforms posed were to the theaters, because the
Right.
theaters really
Right.
got a double whammy, right? They got hit from both
Huh.
sides. They had COVID, they were shut down, and then everybody started watching the streaming platforms and subscribing to them, and like audience taste patterns changed, consumption patterns began to change. So I think the theaters got kind of like, were in a, for a few years, like 2 3 years, they were like, there was like, we don't know what's going to happen. But I think with films that have come out now, whether it's Pathan, or it's, you know, this Kartik Aryan had a big hit, Bhul Bhulaiya 2, or, the few films that have come out
Hmm.
that have been
Hmm.
big, big hits. I think that that is also recovering now. I don't believe you can take the film experience out of, for Indians. Yeah, it's a social experience, or for even
Yeah.
Pakistanis. I'm sure. Like, it's वो एक उसका एक अलग मजा है कि पूरे परिवार के साथ या फैमिली के साथ तैयार होके, या दोस्तों के साथ तैयार होके फिल्म के लिए जाना. It there's more to it than just a viewing experience. It's a social experience. It's a bonding experience.
No,
अब वो
definitely. Definitely. That's definitely the case. One question that I have is that, you also have now एक फेज आया है जिसमें कुछ सीनियर जो अदाकार थे वो वापस आ रहे हैं, जैसे शर्मिला टैगोर हैं, बहुत अरसे के
yeah.
बाद वो वापस आई हैं. सो what is it? I mean, is there, I mean, what would you say कि ये market है बुजुर्ग उनकी, या how do they recreate that attraction?
I think that I think it's lovely, firstly, and I think it's such a pleasure to be able to see so many of these icons on screen again. Like, uh, but I think that, for our profession is a very strange profession, so it does come and go in phases. So you'll always see actors, even like whether it's Dilip Kumar Saab or even Amitabh Bachchan sir. There'll always be those couple of years where they kind of, you don't see them so much, and then there's like a comeback, once they're more.
Hmm.
So I always feel that between that 45 to 55 age, you suddenly lose the actors. With actresses, it's a little younger. Once maybe 40 to 50, suddenly you won't see them, and then they'll come back in a new avatar. And that's happened with Sri Devi also.
Right.
And
Right.
like middle, she had a break, and then she came back with English. I think that, I think it's nice because it gives the audience a little bit of a moment to have like nostalgia and miss them, so that when they
Right,
come back,
right,
you're like, oh, they're back. You have that feeling. And I think barring Anil Kapoor is actually a tremendous example, because he's the only actor that I can think of who has not had a break in his career, who has
right.
worked non-stop,
And
even
it's
when
fantastic
it's
to see him on
amazing.
screen.
He reinvented himself while working. Like most actors take a break and then reinvent themselves, actors and actresses. Anil Kapoor is the only example that I can think of who has worked consistently and reinvented himself while working. Like, I don't think that there's a
Hmm.
single year that has gone by with no release by Anil Kapoor. Maybe 1 year or 2 years, but like otherwise he's always been in our imagination. So I think he's a fantastic and interesting example. But other than that, I think that yeah, I think it's nice that actors get that chance to kind of take a break, live their lives, and then come back when they're in a new phase of life, and then the audience by that time has missed them and wants to see them back. So I think it's nice. Like, I think it's a nice negotiation, and the people who are able to do it, the actors who are able to do it, good for them, and lucky for us as audiences.